All right, so let me formally welcome everybody here to the Denver meeting. We're really looking forward to the panel. We love the topic, and we just kind of thank everyone for taking their time out of their day to participate and come and learn and attend. My name is Joe McGovern. I'm the president of the BD Guild here in Phoenix. I also have a company called the McGovern Group. We do environmental consulting for environmental due diligence for the commercial real estate industry. Always like to reiterate for those who may be new to us, and then also just to reiterate why we're here, because we get a lot of questions at the same time because we're still new. It's like, what is this BD Guild? What are we trying to do? So always like to, a very simple, straightforward mission, and that is to be the premier source of education, coaching, and support for the business development profession. But at the same time, not just for the business development professional, but also for the teams that companies put together for their business development investment, to have teams become better aligned, right, internally. All right, we have, like I said, have a terrific title, and that is the business development role for companies in multiple geographic markets, and then holding your team accountable. It can get interesting, and I'm sure we're going to hear the interesting dynamics that go into that, particularly from the BD role. So anyway, thanks in advance for the panel, and again for the topic. I know Kimberly, she was in transit, but we also want to give a quick shout. She might still be on, but a quick shout out to Kimberly. You're there. Okay. Hello, Kimberly.
Hi.
Quick introduce yourself as the president. We want to say thank you for all your efforts.
Yes, thank you. I'm Kimberly Warner. I'm the current Denver chapter president, also director of marketing and social media with Small Giants. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm excited for the speakers. They have some great content for us.
I love the initials behind your name, Kimberly. The PBD, the Professional Business Development.
Yes.
All right. And give it over to Maggie Bolden, a key member of the Denver team from the very beginning and part of the advisory board member. Maggie.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thank you all so much for joining us. And as Joe mentioned, yes, I am part of the Denver advisory board. When I learned about the Guild, I was probably one of the maybe second ones who wanted to join immediately and get involved. Thank you, Joe. Next slide. Thank you. So you can see here that we have a great group of very experienced people in business development who comprise the advisory board. And please don't hesitate to reach out to any one of the board members. And we're always interested in what other ideas you might have for programming. So please don't be shy.
And let me chime in if I could, Maggie, real quick.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, you know, Denver's, well, new, when we say new, as of February of last year, had one live meeting. And I tell you what, they totally hit the ground running with the help of Kimberly and Maggie and the advisory board in terms of putting the advisory board together and really mapping out what they want to bring to the Denver market. So in a lot of ways, Denver's leading the way within the BD Guild. So anyway, just hats off to all of you guys there.
So the BD Guild has membership, and you all can read this, but it is really a great opportunity to get involved, and you have trainings and you have access to member-only content. And then the really unique thing about the BD Guild is that you receive a 1+ meeting registration. So somebody else from your company can also join, which is great, and get their feet wet about, get into a meeting. And then it really does help to just elevate our profession. And it's a great group of people and really a support group. Next slide.
Yeah, no, really, if I could, I just always love to chime in. Can't help myself. The initial thought behind the +1, we always want to get the BD and the operational teams together So with that, we know that various operational teammates won't necessarily want to go to all of the meetings, but they might want to go to a few or an individual one based on the topic, based on who's speaking and such. So we want to get as many operational folks at the meetings along with the business development professional. And that was kind of the thought behind that. And one quick other note about the BD quarterly newsletter, that is a members only benefit. We just published one in this first quarter of this year, just last week. We published it, and that one, we open it up to the entire community for everyone to take a look at it. We really what's going on with the guild and our plans. So if you did not receive that, let us know, because we will send that. We'll send a copy of it, because this is the one quarter that we're opening up to the whole community for kind of an individual peek.
And then there are opportunities to get involved. In Denver, we would love to have you participate not only in the events, but if you are interested in being on the advisory board, please let us know. We would love to have your voice at the table, and you may have a program that you want to suggest. So it's a great way to really meet some new people and have a support group, if you will. Joe, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, thanks. Like I said, I can't help but chiming in. Yeah, and so each one of the chapters are really beefing up their bench strength by putting committees together. So either content membership committee or sponsorship committee. So if there's any interest on the committee level, each chapter is kind of in the process of building that up. So one of the things that we're very excited about, and when we started this in 2017, and that is the professional business developer certification. It is a curriculum that is a 12-class curriculum taught by industry professionals. And the first 4 years, well, the first 3 years were live classes here in Phoenix. Last year, because of COVID, it was a live stream set on a particular date, right? 2 classes, one afternoon for 6 months. This year, we're moving it to an on-demand model. So we're in production right now. So it's going to be 24/7 on demand. One can take it at any time and take it at their own pace. Instructors will be available through obviously direct outreach and contact, but we're also going to be holding we're calling it virtual hangouts for current and past students and invited instructors. So it's something that we will be coming out. We'll go live. We're going to push the live button here in the second quarter. Like I said, we're in the smack dab in the middle of production as we speak. If there's any questions on the curriculum, one thing I'll say about the curriculum, it's truly a knowledge-based curriculum. It's not necessarily a how-to. The classes are really what is the knowledge base that makes up a top flight business development professional. So that's how the curriculum was designed, and that's that's the purpose of it. So something that we're really excited about, and I know that we have people from multiple states instructing and multiple states already signed up. Again, that's where the virtual benefit comes in. So let us know if you have any questions. It's also on the website. Okay, you'll see upcoming virtual events. Pretty soon, Maggie, we'll be able to have virtual events, right? Without having to put that virtual in there.
Yes.
I think it's going to be a hybrid moving forward. We're going to always have one thing about the virtual events too, and this is another thing a couple of people here in Phoenix said, is like, with the live events, each chapter had like 6 meetings and maybe a couple other meetings thrown in. But the virtual meetings with the other chapters, anyone can go in. So there's a lot of other opportunities to take part in and learn from. So stay tuned on that in terms of, we'll be sending out notices in terms of what's coming up. Maggie, what are you?
Yep. Okay. So today we're going to have a roundtable. Our speakers will actually rotate from the room. So they'll be pulled out at a moment's notice. So just don't be surprised about that. And just wanted to also let you know that we will have a survey that we'll be sending out after the program, and we would really appreciate your feedback. So please let us know what you liked, what you'd like for us to do in the program future. It'd be great.
These surveys are just extremely helpful. And just as a quick preview or heads up too, next week we'll be sending out an actual survey, kind of an overall. It's gonna be a 1-question survey, right? It can be 1 or 2 sentences or words, or it could be a manifesto. And that is, what are your biggest challenges as a BD professional? So that's going to be coming up, be a 1-question survey. That'll be coming up next week. So take a look at that as well. And then we'll be hanging out, Maggie, right? We'll be hanging out.
Yes, we will. We'll be hanging out. We'd love to
All
have
right.
you stay with us.
So Maggie, thank you. And Kimberly and everything else. So Carissa, are you there? Okay, this is where technology, we go into the technology side of the breakout. So I'm gonna stop sharing this. So we'll have about 15 minutes for each breakout room. And then the moderator, facilitator will be the ones moving. So all you guys have to do is stay put. Lauren, question, live hangouts count towards the CEU? No. I'll be happy to tell you what goes into it though.
Can I just ask a logistics question real quick?
Yes,
When
please.
we move into the rooms, can I share my screen? Like, do the 3 of us have? Okay, that's it. Sorry.
Yes.
Thanks.
Nope. Good question.
I'm an architect. We always have to have like visuals, or we feel, less confident, let's say.
And Carissa, I'm assuming that I don't do anything from my end. I'm assuming.
Yep, almost there. Just assigning.
You got it. This is one of the first, this is probably the first time we've attempted, this is the first time we've done the whole breakout sessions. So it's nice to mix up the format, again, the equivalent of walking around the block, get the juices going a little bit differently. When we do these live, the interaction is really a different dynamic. It's really kind of an interesting, when we go back to live, we'll definitely go back to this because it's the interaction is different because it has a little bit more up close and personal feel with each facilitator and person next to you. Eric, if I could cause a little bit of trouble while we're kind of holding on here. I'm from Minneapolis, so I'll be really curious in terms of how you're able to hold the team, your Minneapolis team, accountable for Minneapolis. I say that with a little bit of tongue in cheek because I know how Minnesotans. I'm a Minnesotan. So.
But you lost your accent, Joe. You're supposed to be from Minnesota. Well, I'm guessing something's happening here. We've got a smaller group, smaller and smaller here.
Yeah, we're getting sucked away.
All right.
accountability goes, we think it's important, at least to us, that we have a clear purpose and vision that drives our decision making. This transparency helps our team build like a strategic plan around a common goal, no matter what the discipline is. So this map shows you our different offices. It might be slightly dated, but we have a couple new offices. But you can see in the yellow box, that's the region that I'm covering. So with each office covering like such a substantial territory, we have to be concise in our communication, and that helps us keep on track. So every year as an office and a studio, oh my gosh, my husband's calling me, sorry. Every year as an office and a studio, we sit down together to talk about like our strategic growth plans to help track, leads and prospects, which we think most align with our goals, which makes sense. But sometimes with such a wide area, you can think that you need to cover every school. Like in my case, it's different community colleges and universities. And you have to be strategic, because if not, you're splitting hairs in many ways. So a region like no other. Maintaining our legacy of like longstanding client relationships with Smith Group and our extensive network in a fifth of the country, so we literally cover about 10 states within the region that I cover, is only possible because we have a process and a clearly defined role to help stay on task. To say our team over communicates would be an understatement, and I'm sure you all have found that that's like fourfold since COVID. So I don't know if there's another form of communication that I could actually like fit into the wheelhouse or into my purse or into my mind. So success in a region this large wouldn't be possible if we didn't trust our partners and our local network. A lot of the faces that I saw just within this room, I rely on heavily for opportunities to share, who do you know here? What do you know about them? I think we all rely a lot on each other, and I think that's part of the beauty of business development. We found that standing internal meetings are the best way to keep everybody accountable. We outline this through our capture planning strategy. So we have a very formal capture planning strategy that we go through. It's not meant to be lengthy, but it actually kind of gets to the gist of, that client, the right people, the opportunities ahead, that kind of stuff. We outline this, the capture planning, sorry, and then we create meeting agendas for each step or goal that helps make sure the team is staying focused and understands their expectations. So how we work, we kind of see it as like 3 steps. We research, we develop meeting strategies, and then we develop marketing strategies. So since we have so many experts across every city and every discipline within our firm, in order to not overwhelm clients with Smith Group, we proactively nominate one person to be at point for each client to help funnel the appropriate thought leadership, resources, and relationships to them. Our core capture planning team usually consists of a BD director for the region, which is not me, but my counterpart, Sam Spadaro, who was unable to make it today because she has an event. Our most engaged studio leader, so that's based on typology, a discipline expert or a project manager with a sprinkle of our regional director or practice leader. This roadmap is a tremendous resource. We often back into our goal, and by leaning on different offices and varied leadership, it helps us shape unique and thoughtful approaches to how our team help our clients. When it comes to capture planning, it's important to recognize that it is often like a moving target, or an active file, as I like to call it. We have quarterly meetings with the larger group to do like a pulse check on what's working, what we should refrain from doing, and do we have any blind spots in the path that we've strategized forward. It's not a secret that BD is most successful in person, and we don't have any life hacks for tools that replace that. When it comes to staying on track internally, though, we leverage tools like OneNote. Mural is actually a software we've been using a lot more lately, and our own CRM. We found that instead of throwing info at clients for them to try to make sense of, creating meaningful engagements have been much more impactful. So surveys during lunch and learns to help direct the conversation in a conversation with a future or new client, to ongoing studies as a reason to engage helps us to build stronger ties. Okay, so where do we go from here? How am I doing on time, Joe? Or I should have started a clock, I guess.
No, you're good. We have up to 9 more minutes. So
Okay, thanks. So building new relationships. So we see it as sort of 3 pillars. Be a resource, lean on the team, and stay curious. So building new relationship is never going to go away, no matter how established or old in our scenario your company is in the market. Being a trusted advisor to not just your clients, but your industry partners, like those of us in the room, will always be the #1 way to stay connected. We have more data and information than we know what to do with often. So helping people understand how to make sense of it is really undervalued, and how to make sense of it is a really undervalued way to do BD. Answering questions, diving into complex problems, and reframing how we approach projects helps make BD more tangible to our clients. So the next one, leaning on a team. Working with complementary partners and being transparent has always helped us shape more of our capture plans and lead to many project successes. Bringing other teams to the table early on in the conversation not only strengthens our relationship with them, but with the community as well. I don't know how many times I've tried to get project managers to be a part of this BD process. And I know it's often sometimes an uncomfortable situation, but I literally just say, like, open your ears, like keep your ears open, like, just listen sometimes. So building a plan together helps with not only accountability, but with market knowledge. There's so much that each of us knows just a little of, or a lot of, and that we need to share, and that's what makes us all more successful. New relationships seem to organically happen when you look towards a common goal with industry partners. So the last one, stay curious. This is probably the one that speaks most to me personally. I'm one of those, I think, in the strength finders, I'm one of the top for me is learner, like I'm forever learner. It goes without saying that a key component of our job is genuine curiosity. Clients are in their business because they are passionate about it. Understanding how they make decisions in their industry and what they value in the process is key to helping them in the future. So that was a lot that I threw on everybody in the group, but I'm trying to think how much time we have left. If we had some time, I had some thoughts, or thought we could just, discuss if we wanted to, or I had some questions to kind of talk through if you guys wanted to, or if you wanted to just have a general chat. I'm not seeing faces, but I can stop sharing so that we can.
yeah, we have about 5 minutes before you go to the next one, Michaela. So
okay. So I guess one of the questions was just that, that I thought asking, unless we want to talk. I mean, I'm game for whatever, honestly. But one of the things was just, what have you all found successful in, during this period, or maybe most recently, or, just to make this more of a conversation, because I don't want to be,
Yeah, I liked what you said about like over communicating, and I feel like that has definitely been something that has happened at with my firm, and is a blessing, because I am a curious person, and I also am needing to learn. This is actually my first business development position, and just
cool.
from marketing, transitioned into business development in March 2020, right when all this happened. Yeah. So I've been relying a lot on just like video phone conversations to like touch base and explain what Atlas is, and bringing other people, either the uncomfortable project manager or a comfortable senior business development person to come together and talk, and at least make some kind of eye contact through Zoom, since we can't be in person.
Yeah, it's almost like, is this an extra buffer that actually creates comfort for some people? It's almost like, I don't know, you kind of wonder, because
I I was wondering too on the present, like Zoom calls with you bringing in your operational team. They don't need to get out of the office and go with you. That simple little thing, right? They don't need to like leave the office and drive and park and go and come back. I mean, I'm wondering if that again, this easy buffer, I think it just kind of popped into my head, but it's easier for them to participate in terms of just time.
Yeah, for sure. Like
Yeah,
maybe,
Michaela.
yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say Julia Flores wanted to be here, and she was like,
yeah.
Michaela, she's presenting, but she's at
Yeah.
jury duty at Lindsay
Oh.
Flanagan. So,
Lord.
yeah,
Poor
she's
girl.
been in court all day. But so actually, I was curious how many like specific BD people Smith Group has in ratio to architects, and if you guys have architects that like you try to do the seller doer kind of thing, or if
yeah. So that's a good question, and I don't think I have numbers to it. Boy, where's Sam when you need her? I know that it's kind of shocking actually. With us in Smith Group, we have 2 currently. One of my past colleagues is actually on this call. His name's Chad, but we have 2 currently, and it's interesting because the 2 of them, they break up. They break up markets. So they each are assigned 2 markets. Like I said, we kind of have 4 in this region. And then they also kind of split territories. So if something falls out of the states that we're physically in, our offices are, then, Sam covers Utah, Wyoming, Colorado. Mackenzie does, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada. But then if it's a market thing, they have to, kind of talk, it's really complex. And does it work all the time? No, but does it, also provide as much clarity as you can get in this situation? Yes. So, and I mean, I'm an architect that does a lot of BD, had done that for a long time in my career. But we do kind of blend, it's a blended model, I would say. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I know we were talking at our last advisory board meeting about the different models that people use and how it varies across every company. Like we're a 10-person office. So I've been trying to get Julia to get out there and talk to more architects and people. But right, it's a different model for almost every company. There's no one size fits all.
Michaela, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You had talked about solving problems before clients know they have them, or coming up with solutions before they knew there was a challenge. So we recently opened 2 new offices, one in North Carolina, one in Ohio. And so we have obviously those target clients, let's say, well, University of North Carolina, we've already got work there. But at the beginning, how do you get to know them and their campus enough in order to identify those sort of things and have them open enough or willing to hear those kind of ideas that they have not identified yet?
Yeah, you're right. It's hard because at the beginning you're just trying to get to know them, right? You're like, what are they like, right? As a client, do they value this or that? Something that we've recently did, I know I have like a minute, so I'll be fast.
I know, I'm sorry to sneak this in.
No, it's okay. I think just what we've done is we've relied heavily upon our network of consultants, let's say, contractors. So recently we've gone into Utah and, going into Salt Lake City and knowing what Utah is like, or has been, just market wise, and, they like to keep it in-house or in-state and all that stuff. I think it's what it is that I've just tried to tap into people I know here in Denver that have connections there. Terracon is a good example of somebody that has helped, me kind of go into, you guys might know Darren Bruns, but he's really helped me kind of connect into Utah. Just, this is kind of the lay of the land. And then I go to somebody else and they give me a little bit of the lay of the land. And through that, you kind of find the way you fit into that mold, or you fit into ways to help them, or what values you have that they value too, the client. And I think then you go in, and we just recently won a project there. So it's kind of, I'm with you. It's not easy, but that's what this is all for, right? Mm-hmm. So, and we all, yeah, sure.
No, that's wonderful. That's great stuff.
I think we're getting kicked out.
We stay.
Oh, right.
Right, we stay, and then I think
There was a message that she was bringing everybody back together first.
I think that's at the end. That's after the 3, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, Michaela got kicked out, and Eric has joined us.
I'm on. All right, I'm gonna see if I can share, guys. And I gotta go back to, so I've got some slides here, and I'm gonna go through them very quickly. It's okay, I'm from the East Coast, so I can talk fast. But I'm not gonna introduce myself. I'll just say that we're a professional services firm in the AEC space, and we do a lot of work in new construction, major renovation type projects, guys. But the intent of what I've been asked to speak on is obviously managing accountability across various geographic markets. Just a little bit of context for y'all. So we're headquartered in Denver. We also have a presence in Minneapolis, Dallas, San Jose, and we're opening a branch in the Southeast that I'm playing a kind of an active role in right now. Each one of our, so we're about 110, 120 employees. We've got 10 full-time sales staff within PI, few folks in every office. And the way that we're structured is that while I'm head of our corporate sales and business development, our BD directors in each office actually directly report to the vice presidents of those offices. There is a heavy dashed line to me, but they don't directly report to me. And that's pretty intentional because I want them to feel a sense of accountability to the people that are in the office right next to them on a daily basis. And our VPs play a pretty active role in the BD and client interface as well. So just a little bit of background for understanding how we're structured. So one of the big things that I think I look back, and when Maggie had asked us to do this, I've used the term before, rhythm or cadence of accountability. And we at PI have established a rhythm and a cadence to our year, which breaks down annually, monthly, weekly, daily to what do we do from a sales and business development perspective. And I think this is important if you're trying to hold somebody accountable in another region or another location, is first of all, you got to create conditions for people to motivate themselves. Well, that's easy to say, but if there's not a process, that can be pretty amorphous, and really having a process allows you to hold people accountable to the process. And if you know the process works, it's kind of like you'd rather follow somebody through a minefield that's already done it versus walking through yourself. And then communicating clearly, setting clear expectations. If the expectations don't exist, you're going to have a tough time managing anything. So you gotta have alignment there. And then where you are recognizing performance where people are doing well. But so the biggest thing here is aligning expectations and establishing expectations first and foremost. If the expectations aren't clear, holding people accountable is going to be almost impossible. So how we do that at PI is it really starts in October, November timeframe for the preceding year, where we're developing our annual goals. And one of the things I think from a sales perspective is important is that you have your sales and BD teams and leads involved in that process. So rather than goals just being handed off or passed down to them, they are a collaborative and integrative part of that process. So we do that regionally, typically in September, October. The vice presidents and the BD teams are developing what are their revenue, sales, backlog, pipeline goals for the upcoming year. And then they're presenting those at what we call our annual leadership meeting in November. But it's a collaborative process. From there, then it's all about how do we create KPIs and measurable activity. If you can't measure it, you can't improve it. You can't track it. You can't change it. You can't do anything with it. So if you have goals and you're not breaking it down into anything that you can measure, or they're so big that they're not broken down into bite-sized chunks, and you're trying to eat the elephant all at once, you're going to have a really hard time holding people accountable. So how we do that is we take those big goals, because as you grow as a company, those goals are going to add up. Eventually, you get to a point where, as a professional service firm, our proposal goal might be 52 million for the year, or our sales goal is 20 million. You got to start breaking that down. And so geographically, we will break that down into what does that look like from a sales goal, a proposal goal, a pipeline goal, even down to how many proposals. If we know what our average proposal size is. How many proposals do we actually need to be generating on a monthly, weekly basis to be able to keep on target for our goals? And then face-to-face meetings, client dialogues, email and phone calls back and forth. We're actually tracking those at a KPI level. So this provides kind of the content for what we start to utilize to hold people accountable within our sales organization. So the tool we use to do that then is we take those goals and we incorporate them into our CRM, which is Salesforce. Now, up until about 3 years ago, we did everything with Excel spreadsheets. So I can definitely assist if anybody has any questions in that regard. But we got to a point where it just became unmanageable. You couldn't physically manage the amount of data. So we adopted Salesforce. We went through a customization program where we built it to work for us. Joe, one of the things you talked about is operational and sales and how do you work together. One of the things we did with our Salesforce platform was you cannot set up a job operationally in Pi without it being set up in Salesforce first. So it has to be set up as a project in Salesforce or an opportunity and converted it into a project. But the accountability allows us to be able to understand how are we performing in each of our regions at an executive level, which is what you kind of see here. For both sales and proposals, as well as our pipeline. And what does that pipeline look like? So now we really are able to hold and understand what the accountability looks like from region to region for each of our groups. And this goes down even to our specialist level. So some of our entry-level salespeople have their own dashboards on sales activity, proposal activity, number of face-to-face meetings or calls that they're having on a weekly basis. There's actually a dashboard that they have that they can utilize, and then that all rolls up into our senior or our executive level dashboard. Now, the numbers and the KPIs and all of those things are important, but one of the things that I think also has made us successful and sets us apart is we found a great partner in Colleen Stanley. And I don't know if any of you have heard of Colleen, but she has a company, sales leadership, and her philosophy is very much based on emotional intelligence and empathy. And we actually hired her to assist us in developing a playbook a couple of years ago. And I think from an accountability perspective, this has also allowed us to have a process that we can hold our sales and BD staff accountable to. Going back to the minefield analogy, if we know it works, and there was those of us that had been with the company, myself and a few others included, that we knew what had worked, but it was only in our heads. We hadn't really gotten it out into a process that allowed other people to follow it. And we've grown to a point where the new person wasn't going to get the opportunity to really ride around in the truck with me or in the car with me, and through osmosis, learn like you do when you're a small business. So creating a playbook that actually talks about what is our process. So we're not spending time just writing practice proposals, which we've all done, but how are we qualifying leads? How are we actually going through the process from a sales perspective? And that process includes actually putting our sales staff through a 2-day boot camp with Colleen after about 90 days. So we want to make sure that they're going to be the right fit for Pi before we pay for that expense. But again, it allows us to start to make sure that that our folks are going to follow that accountability process. So what does this look like in day-to-day application? On a weekly basis, every one of our BD directors in each of the office submits a weekly report on their activity. So that's a snapshot of their Salesforce dashboard on how much they sold, what they proposed, how many face-to-faces they had, how many, what their pipeline looks like, how many dialogues. And then that gets imported into a Google Doc that summarizes all of our activity across the board. And then we take that one step further, where every 2 weeks, they're actually presenting that information in person to our executive team, both sales and operations. They got to stand up and report, how are we doing? And these huddles are 15 minutes. Nobody sits down. We literally are standing around a table and we're firing off basically where we have a very kind of structured approach to what's taking place and what we've done. And so they're reporting on where they're face-to-face, where are the sales, where is the pipeline. And we stagger this. So 1 week it's operations, 1 week it's sales. So the sales staff will be in an operational meeting on a weekly basis, and we're not talking about sales specifically. And then that all rolls up into a year to date for us to be able to track how are each one of our service lines in each geography doing. Again, going back to kind of the rhythm and the cadence, the communication. Every one of our employees within PI, not just sales, but operations as well, has a weekly plan of action, typically with their direct report, 15 to 30 minutes on a weekly basis. And this is another touch point to talk about accountability and how are we managing, if we're not meeting our numbers, why? And it provides an opportunity for coaching for those folks that may need such. And then monthly, it's a one-on-one that's typically 60 to 90 minutes. If you're local, it might be a lunch, again, for that accountability or that opportunity to provide coaching and leadership to somebody that might be new in a role. At a director level, so if we're meeting with my director in Minnesota, we have a very standardized process when we meet that we're talking about, okay, year-to-date sales, year-to-date proposals, what's the leads, what's the pipeline? And the minutes, is you can see on the left-hand side, that's how many minutes we're going to spend on those topics maximum. So we want to make sure that we're sticking to a rhythm and not spending 4 hours going over this information and not spending 2 hours talking about one project. If we need to set aside a separate meeting, we'll do that. But this kind of gives you the idea of what we're talking about every month with each one of those regional leads. Then we have quarterly sales alignment and training meetings. So this is typically an hour and a half, where again, it's an accountability check on how we're doing, as well as some practical training for the team, depending on what the team or the individuals might need. And then we do a mid-year annual sales alignment and retreat. So this gives each of the regions actually an opportunity to come in and give a state of the union. How are they doing? What do they potentially need to change to course correct for the second half of the year? We typically will bring in an outside consultant to do some level of training. Last year, we actually brought in Rourke Denver. He's a 20-year SEAL veteran and provided some really cool, applicable advice. But one of the things I think that was asked to talk about was how did we react to COVID? And this was an opportunity for us to work with our teams and talk about what we call VUCA, which is the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. I mean, that's where we all were in May and June of this time last year. And we started to refocus what's in our locus of control. And we actually saw probably more new prospective client introductions from May to December of 2020 than we had in our entire company's history as a result of just re-scripting what our approach was going to be and how we were going to do that. So one other touch point we have is our monthly town halls. These are all employees, and we're providing kind of a state of the union of the entire company, not just from a sales perspective, but from a revenue and key priorities that we're working on. But it is another touch point where our sales staff have to stand up and be accountable to the entire company for what is our region doing and how are we doing. If we're not doing well, why not? And what are we doing to course correct? Some kind of and then breaking that down individually, accountability tactics such as calendar blocking. The calendar on the left is mine, and the calendar on the right is one of our directors here in Colorado. And the ability for these individuals to be able to handle the sheer amount of data and information that they have to do. We spend a lot of time coaching folks in these skills and tactics so they can be good at holding themselves accountable. And then by the time we get back to that, we're at the end of the year and we start the process all over again. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions, thoughts, comments, anything.
Does it freak anybody out to see these people sitting next to each other without masks on?
What's that?
You said, does it freak anybody else out to see all these people in a room without masks?
Well, that was last year. So.
I know. It scares me every time I see it, though.
So, Eric, I've got a question. As you look at what you guys have put in systemically,
yep.
How has that helped identify and improve sales performance?
Huge. I mean, to be able to, first of all, if we weren't able to, we created a system and a process that was duplicatable. And prior to that, we were good at what we did, but we weren't able to go out and duplicate it in other regions. So Colorado, for example, really had adopted everything we already talked about, but our Minnesota and our Texas offices were kind of doing it their way. And we struggled. We really weren't able to push through a ceiling, and we would hire BD people in those regions, but they weren't following a process. And so as we started to create a process, we started to gain alignment. And now, you know, this has actually gone to a point where our BD specialists, even our entry-level sales staff, they're actually setting up monthly meetings on their own to talk about how they can improve at their level and things that they can do. So now it's created this momentum of wanting to grow and change, and it's not being dictated by myself or top leadership anymore. It's happening at a grassroots level. So the directors do the same thing, and they'll bring ideas to me saying, "Hey, we'd like to try this or implement that." And it's all 4 or 5 of them. So we've created this brotherhood, sisterhood, if you will, across the regions where they're wanting to self-improve.
Did you start that out with a single champion or like a committee that championed this idea of accountability and the leadership group? And who birthed that?
Yeah, so it started with what I would call our building science group, which was the group that I was leading. And Paul, our CEO, had actually asked me to move out of running sales and operations for that one group and take what I had done and apply it across all of our service lines and for all of our offices. And so it was, you know, that process took about a year and a half. And so it wasn't overnight. And we had varying degrees of success in the beginning in certain locations. But, you know, after about a year and a half, we actually really were able to start to see, you know, the results of that work.
Eric, I have a quick question. This is more logistics here.
Yeah.
Before we transfer have the third session, we just want to make sure that people go to the right one. Do you remember one person from your last session? Make sure we get you to the right one.
Maggie was in my last one.
Maggie was? Okay.
Yeah. And
okay. Thank you.
I don't remember the other names. Yeah, sorry.
Maggie's enough. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was there, when you were implementing this, what kind of resistance did you find? Or was there?
Yeah, so some of the, I'm going to call maybe the folks that were a little bit more old school in their thinking or their processes that didn't want to adopt or change. And this is something that we look at now very, very keenly, even in our interviewing process, is coachability. If folks aren't going to be willing to be coached and look to want to improve in areas, they're probably not going to be a right fit for PIE. And we had some old school folks within the organization that was the case. And you know, so in some cases that took care of itself, and in some cases, you know, we had to take care of it on our side. So, yep.
So weird when he just disappears.
I know, Eric. Sorry, Eric. We really liked what you were saying.
Thanks.
Such a good process, but so much accountability.
I tell you what, that's I think, you know what, I think you need to have you just have to be aligned mindset wise.
Yeah.
To be in that system, because that's true. That's a true blue system. That's on the ground. Yeah.
All right, folks.
How are you?
I could be better, Joe. I have been kicked out of every one of these before I was done. I just can't do it fast enough.
You know what? Time just flies on these things. And this last one, I think we extended it by 5 to 7 minutes too. So
third time's the charm, Royce. You got
third time's the
this.
charm.
I'm gonna get going here as fast as I can. So, can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So I'm not gonna take much time to explain Atlas because I know two of the three of you on this call already understand who we are. But we are a nationwide firm. Lauren, I'm speaking to you. We have about 110 offices now in 41 states. We're about a 34 to 3,600 person company. You would be forgiven not to recognize our brand, and that is largely because the brand came together in early 2016, and we have been a company focused on mergers and acquisitions and have grown through M&A, and that's what's given us our national footprint. My responsibilities are business development in the Western region. You'll see this orange area here, 12 states, about 40 branch offices and about 1,000 employees total in the Western region. I have a team of 7 dedicated business development people here across the West. There are approximately another 11 who are doing 50% or less of or up to 50% of their time is spent in BD. All told, there are over 100 people that participate in 3 monthly BD meetings that I hold across the region, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. I wanted to start here with the concept of primary and secondary team members, and why I believe not everybody needs to be a specialist. So in 2009, I heard a TED talk from a guy by the name of Simon Sinek, and I'm sure most of you have heard of Simon. In that book, Start With Why, there was a concept, and I've adopted it and abused it. It's certainly not in line with his original concept, but as we bring people into business development, the first stage for people who may be experienced BD folks, but may not know our industry, or may just be new to business development altogether. We like to be able to promote people from within the organization. The first goal is for them to understand what we do. That's the basic, is for them to be able to speak effectively and confidently about what we do. And then as that progresses, they get to the point that they're able to talk about how we do what we do, and to be able to answer some more specific questions that the clients might bring into the conversation. And then those that are really very good at it and are confident and have been in the industry, they're the ones that can talk about the why. Why do we do what we do? So do I need to have everybody on my team at that specialist level, those folks that can speak to the why? I'd rather not. I like the balance that we have, and I'll call them generalists and specialists. My expectation is that everyone is a generalist and that they can speak to the what. We've provided that team of confident, well-trained, and well-informed generalists with a group of specialists who they know they can go to, and the team sells together. Some of those specialists are members of the BD team. Some of them we're pulling out of our operations group, and I'll talk about that if I have time in a minute, about the value of engaging operations in the business development process. And so by having specialists that are pulled from operations, that are either specialists in market sectors or service lines, they're part of that pursuit. They're engaged in the business development process early on in team selling to identify projects, qualify projects, and close business. And so that's how we engage business development in that operations process. And boy, I wish I had more time, but we're gonna move on here. BD meetings are always something that, I wasn't smart enough to be a doctor or a lawyer, so I've been in business development for a very long time. And one of the things that any of us in BD struggle with is meetings, just too many meetings. And how do we make our BD meetings valuable to those that are attending? And how do we get people to really engage and participate? Especially for us at Atlas here in the West, we've got a broad range of people, from dedicated BD people to the doer sellers, just the technical people, those that are just the doers. We've even got operations leadership that join in our BD meetings. I mentioned across the 3 meetings that I have every month, there are well over 100 people that participate, and they're not all dedicated BD. So we meet once a month per division. So the Western region is broken into a Northern, a Central, and a Southern division. We meet once a month per division. What I am doing is 1 month we're focused on performance. We're focused on KPIs and where are we. We're celebrating our wins. We're talking about lessons learned from our losses. The alternate month, we try to bring in some training. One of our specialists will come in 15 minutes, talk about, what's happening within the transportation industry. Susie Bravo here on the call is our subject matter expert. She's our specialist for transportation in the West. Do we bring in our environmental SME or, somebody who can talk about schools and hospitals and the market and the opportunities there? Try to provide 15 minutes worth of training just to make sure that these are valuable meetings that are taking place. If you have questions, if you don't stop me, I'm just going to keep going because I know I'm going to run out of time. The CRM, Lauren, remind me what firm you're with. I'm sorry.
Sorry, DWL Architects and Planners.
Okay. So I'm assuming you folks, large national firm, are you using a CRM?
Yes, we use Cosential.
Okay. So is the CRM part of your business culture? Is there engagement or is it forced engagement?
No, it's not forced on anyone, but would I say it's, broadly implemented? No, we have high tech people and low tech people.
Yeah. And that's the same. I don't care what size company you are, how long you've been doing what you're doing. I've experienced and I've heard that for a very long time. The more it can become part of your business culture, and there are ways and tips and tricks that I've learned over the years of making it part of that, but it does build value for your business. Now, does it build go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. We have currently, we're primarily seller doer when it comes to business development. And we have some that are approaching retirement. And those are the few that have
technically challenged. Yeah,
a little bit. And so
Joe, I think she's calling you and I names. I'm not sure.
I'm trying not to. So we've been, less, like you said, forceful and just accommodated them for now. But we also just brought on 2 new principals, and they're a little more technically.
Yeah. Well, the problem with the CRM that doesn't have, part of the company culture, it becomes a phone book or a Rolodex for those of us that remember what those are. And, it's a good way to look up addresses and phone numbers, but you don't need that anymore because we've got it all here, right? And so, and it needs to be more than just a reporting tool, something that you can use for your forecasting. It really can build. I think one of the ways is to use this as a sales management tool and to allow the users to be able to have a place where they can go and know when was the last time I called this client, schedule my next call, put my notes in there as to what we talked about, so we're not having to go through my drawer here and find my yellow pad from October and try to find my notes. It's all there. So I don't have to tell this group of the value of a CRM.
I actually ended up hiring another marketing coordinator who's almost dedicated to capturing their physical notes and cards, business cards that they get, and doing all that input, that data entry for them. So they are using it as a tool that like a consumer would use it, but they're not doing the entry or necessarily the tracking. So I do all the reporting. But we do have somebody at least capturing the information and getting it.
At least you're capturing the data. Yeah.
Because when they're gone, right? Because they're almost gone.
Yeah.
And so then we don't know anything unless we know something, right?
Well, and the trouble, Lauren, with the doer sellers is, we're pushing them to be billable. We're tracking their efficiencies, and the time that they have to take to do what they would consider administrative work, or even attend meetings. takes away from their billable hours and their efficiencies and everything else. So, it's hard. That engagement needs to be intentional. That was one of the things that drew me to the BD Guild from the beginning. I've been involved with the Southern California chapter for a while, and it was more than just the opportunity for BD training, which I was excited for. It was the Guild's commitment to that communication between business development and operations, that collaboration and the value there, something I very firmly believe in. All right, so let's move on. Slide 5 out of 45. No, just 9. We've talked a little bit about the collaboration there. So the first level is there needs to be trust. How do you build trust in that relationship between business development and operations, where typically it's not natural? And that is, as we talked back in the earlier slide about involving operations in the BD process by assigning specialists from within that team, that when our BD people need that support, they can pull them in. Now you've got buy-in early in the process because they've been engaged. I'm going to jump down to the collaboration in the go no-go process and the proposal development process. Again, if we get early involvement, we're going to get buy-in in this because they've been part of it. They're invested in it, and they're going to want that to be successful. And to give them the opportunity to review your proposals and your bids, to have input in on the pricing. It's dangerous because without that relationship and that mutual respect, operations can say, hey, you need to raise your rates. We're concerned about is margins, and they don't understand that balance between being competitive and bringing in business that drives a healthy margin. But I can say that over the last 2 or 3 years, as we've made the effort to engage operations early in the process, that they are now part of the team. And although some of those conversations and that tension still exists, it's certainly gotten a lot better by just focusing on that and demonstrating as a BD group our commitment to minimizing risk. We're not just out there to win work at whatever cost, but we recognize through that communication and those shared objectives what the risk is that we need to focus on. We're taking that input and asking them for direction. Moving on, Lauren, does your firm do client satisfaction surveys?
We do. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So I won't go into this. There's, we as a company that supports the construction industry, one of the things that I did years ago was to start Friday donut runs or cookie runs. And, we'd go in the morning out to the job site, deliver a box of donuts or a box of cookies, and use that as an opportunity to do just a short customer satisfaction survey. How are we doing? Are you happy with our people? Are there any issues? We're a third party. We're not their project manager. We found that oftentimes they were more willing to talk to us than the PM. And so there's a lot of ways to do it. We can have a whole series on client care, but we need to move on. This has been very interesting, and Susie and I have had this conversation. COVID is obviously, just by the nature of how we're communicating with each other here today, COVID has obviously changed the way we interact with our clients. But I believe that there have been some unexpected benefits from that. Lauren, have you seen any of that?
I would say operational efficiency. It's really cut down. I mean, also the resource investment on the projects, there's no travel time. There's meetings are kept to the most essential topics typically. because you can see people either disengaged or confused, or, you know, you can see, I mean, I can see everybody's face looking in one direction right now, as opposed to looking all the way around the room. You missed something, right? So there's definitely an efficiency and some cost savings that have been benefits. And work-life balance. Some people, you know, I think that can go one of two ways. Like I worked until 2 o'clock in the morning yesterday or this morning because my living room is my office. So that I have a difficult time drawing a line, but other people can, you know, help homeschool their kids and take the dog for a walk between meetings and, you know, do different things like that. So yeah, definitely there are major pros and cons to this adventure we've all been on. Sorry, my teenagers are now crashing their room apart in the background.
I think there definitely, obviously there's disadvantages, and the loss of that human connection is probably the biggest one, both internally and externally. I mean, as BD people, we're most effective in person. But there are benefits, and I'm not sure that
I miss happy hour. Can I say I miss happy hour?
I miss happy hour too. Yep. I'm not sure we'll go back to the way it was before completely. You know, I like being able to, I can have more client meetings in a week with Zoom calls or Teams meetings than I did before. And, you know, these are to the point. They're specific conversations. They're respecting their time. It's taking less of my time. And I think the clients appreciate it than to say, hey, you know, I'd like to stop by the office Tuesday at 2 o'clock, or hey, can we meet for coffee tomorrow morning? You know, it's getting there, it's parking, it's all of that. That's still important. I don't ever want to lose that personal interaction, but I think we can get a lot more done. Internally, you know, it allows me to touch base with a national team of BD people, 11 direct reports that I have on a more regular basis, and I can still look them in the eye. And, you know, it doesn't replace, again, the face-to-face, but I think this has been, if there's anything good coming out of this lockdown we've been in, it is, you know, I think some tips and tricks that we've learned that we can carry on into and make ourselves a little more efficient moving forward. You know, here we're talking about developing broad multi-market strategies and goals for our BD team. Or are we developing very specific growth and capture plans for key clients, or are we doing both? And we're, you know, we here in the West for Atlas are doing both. You know, there's value in focused plans, goals, and strategies, you know, down to, you know, the client level. It makes it easier to identify opportunities and measure our progress there. Makes it easier for us to make course adjustments when we've got these plans in place. You know, I've said for years, we can't manage what we can't measure. And, you know, that's something that, you know, I'm a bit of a data geek. I believe very strongly that we have to have these goals in place to be able to manage ourselves against. We need to be able to communicate to operations and finance and the senior executives of the firm how we're going to meet our goal, and, you know, and what the plan to do that is, down to either the market sector like Susie's transportation group here in the West, or down to, you know, a specific client. What's our capture plan? What's our forecast for the work we're going to get from that? And so to answer the question that I posed here on the left, I think they need to be both. You know, they need to be broad multi-market strategies, and they need to be client specific. We have in the Western region of the United States very unique markets, because in that northern market, which is going to include Alaska and the Pacific Northwest out to, you know, Idaho and Iowa and Wyoming, in that northern division, you know, it is for the most part a a not as densely populated area. The type of work that's being built in that area is different than what we're seeing being built in downtown Los Angeles or in Phoenix or Tempe. And so our strategies need to be different. It's not a broad multi-market strategy as I might have suggested here, as much as it is a very regionally focused strategy that is specific to what's happening in that area. I will say that for me in this organization, I have learned that an important part of business development is knowing what the needs are of each of these regions or each of the divisions within the region. You've got, I mentioned almost 50 or 50 plus branches here. Each of these branches across the Western region is made up of a cross-section of people with specific skills. And each of these branches needs to be profitable to justify their existence. And so for us as business development people to recognize and to be working with that branch manager and to recognize what does that location need? What's the mix of work that they need to keep their staff busy, to be profitable, and to be working with them as a partner to be able to find and drive specific business to those specific branches, so that if each section of the organization is healthy, my philosophy is the organization as a whole will be healthy. So I think that's it. Somehow this must be the last one because they didn't